A very good morning to all of you. Week 12, and the topic for this week is mental health issues for culturally and linguistically diverse communities. The key idea for this unit is to explore an application of social work frameworks in mental health within a particular social context, that is, culturally, linguistically diverse communities. I hope you have seen the web links and resources that I have already uploaded for this week's understanding. Now, the learning objective for this week is that on completion of this unit, the student should have become familiar with the particular issues facing men, women and children from cultural and linguistically diverse background in Australia. An understanding of cultural understandings of mental health issues, considered the impact of trauma and other concerns for refugees, asylum seekers in Australia. The ability to reflect on practices across the spectrum of mental health issues for people from CALD communities. Now, those are the key learning objectives for this week's. Now, what we increasingly know about the mental health of general Australian population, we do not know about culturally and linguistically diverse communities in Australia. Important statement, and I think it's important that you really look at the documents that actually talks about this particular idea, that what we increasingly know about the mental health of the general Australian population, we do not know about culturally and linguistically diverse community in Australia. So ask a question: why is it? Why and what can be done? How can we get more information? Multicultural Mental Health Australia provides national leadership in building greater awareness of mental health and suicide prevention amongst Australians from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. I would ask you to look at that particular website, mhima.org.au. That gives you a lot more information about this particular concept. See, my point here today is to drive home the message that this is an area where social workers will be definitely be working in the practice context. So it's important to get an idea about what these documents are saying to us and what we really need to learn from those documents. So those frameworks, those links are essential for us to understand the current practices, current ideas about these particular concepts. I've also uploaded 2 readings which are very much related to this topic, and that you can also locate from your subject outline. Now, if you look at Australia's growing cultural diversity, the number of overseas born Australians has increased from 23% of the total population in 2006 to 26% in 2011. Now, that's based on the 2011 census. The number of Australians who speak a language other than English increased from 16% of the total population in 2006 to 19% in 2011. The number of languages spoken in Australia has increased from 160 in 1996 to over 200 in 2011. So Australia has experienced significant increases in the number of immigrants from non-English speaking countries between 2001 and 11. For example, immigrants from India have increased by 200,000 people, and immigrants from China have increased by 176,000. So just these facts and statistics give us the current issues, and actually asks us to reflect on the CALD communities, and especially about the kind of services provided to people from culturally and linguistically diverse background, especially in terms of providing mental health services. So I would ask you to look at the framework for mental health in multicultural Australia towards culturally inclusive service delivery. Now, this framework has been developed to help organizations and individual workers. So this particular document that I am referring to is going to help in 2 ways. Number one, it helps you to evaluate the organizations to see their cultural responsiveness and to enhance their delivery of services for called communities. So this framework is mapped against current practice, policies and plans. Its implementation will not only assist services to fulfill their existing safety, quality and accreditation requirements, but also offers an ongoing process of assessment and development. So could I please ask you all to refer to that framework for mental health in multicultural Australia. You can download it from the website, and it comes as a PDF document. And this particular document also gives us a lot of information, and I'm going to share a few data from that particular document. What the data says: generally, immigrants, refugees and asylum seekers have lower rates of mental health service utilization than the Australian-born population. Barriers to access include greater stigma about mental illness in some called communities, language barriers, cultural misunderstandings and limited knowledge of mental health and available services when compared with the Australian-born population. These barriers make it harder for people from called backgrounds to access mental health services when needed, resulting in higher acute and involuntary admissions. The other factors contributing to the increased risk of mental health problems in called communities include low proficiency in English, loss of close family bond, racism and discrimination, stresses of migration and adjustment to a new country, trauma exposure before migration, and limited opportunity to fully utilize occupational skills. Factors that appear to be protective of mental health include religion, strong social support and better English proficiency. Now, the data also says that suicide rates for first generation immigrants generally reflect the rates in their country of birth, while the rates for subsequent generations of immigrants tend to become more reflective of the rates of the Australian population. Research indicates that strong family bonds, religion and traditional values are associated with the lower suicide risk. Refugees and asylum seekers are at greater risk of developing mental health problems and suicidal behaviors than the general Australian population. Prolonged detention is associated with poorer mental health in asylum seekers, particularly among children. And I'm only drawing this, I've taken this from the data just to give you an idea about why this is important for us to consider when we start practicing in the mental health field. Some of the barriers for called people in addressing mental health issues include lack of knowledge or understanding about mental health services, stigma related to mental illness or seeking help, concerns about confidentiality. So these are some of the barriers, why people are not accessing mental health services. Language barriers, cultural misunderstandings, previous unfavorable or negative experiences with health or other services, concerns about being heard, understood or respected, especially in relation to their own explanation of their problems or issue. So you'll find some of these barriers very often in practice, and maybe keep your eyes open, ears open, observe what's happening in the placements in the agency where you will be working. Can you see some of these barriers in action? The document also gives us some 5 key concepts. Number 1 is cultural responsiveness. Number 2, risk and protective factors. Third, culturally responsive factors. Number 4, consumer and carer participation. And number 5, recovery and cultural diversity. So please read those 5 concepts, because they are actually going to help us in the delivery of services. I'm not going to read that one because it's already there on the PowerPoint slides that I have uploaded. The 2 readings that we have suggested: the negotiating explanatory models in assessing mental health across cultures. So look at that. The authors talk about the mental health and assessment of mental health issues. This chapter included in your readings discuss respectful communication between workers and consumers to find shared understanding of mental health concerns. So although all 3 authors are psychologists and practice frameworks draws on social models of mental health, This reading offers a place to begin as you consider possible responses to the needs of consumers from diverse cultural backgrounds. So that's an interesting reading. So please look at that. And then you'll find Kim's reading chapter on building social capital with the refugee community. That's also an interesting chapter. But as a professional in the field of social work, it is important to regularly reflect on your work practice and your agency's commitment to equality and diversity on two levels. Number one, the first is an analysis of how your service meets requirements of equality and diversity. Are people from a range of communities and cultures accessing the service? Can they all expect the same access to information, support, referral and advocacy? Are all communities engaged in consultative or participatory processes or practices? The second level is to consider how your practice and the agency in general actively promote outcomes for equality and diversity. This involves meaningful political analysis about institutional racism in mental health services and action and change. So these are key ideas that are emerging from this week's reading, and you can find all this information online. It's already uploaded. The PowerPoint is there, the readings are there. Now, could I please ask your attention on to this reflection task? Now, go back to the reflective task from week 1, where you were asked to consider your own cultural background. Pause for a while and just think about that. How may your own background impact on your practice with the different cultural communities? What strengths could you draw on in working with mental health issues? What areas would you like to develop further in order to ensure an appropriate practice? So I leave you with this particular reflection task for this week, and of course I just want to remind you that the second assignment is due by next Friday. Your blogs are also due by then, so please submit your assignments on time. Please do not forget to include your cover page. Please follow the required formatting, and I have clearly explained in my previous video about how this needs to be submitted. Use the cover page, statement of learning, your 3 blogs, and the comments, the date on which you are making the comments, and submit it as a one single document on to safe assignment by next Friday. Thank you. If there are any issues, please feel free to email me or contact me. Thank you. I'll come back to you next week with another topic. Thank you so much. Bye for now.